Tim Napolitano. Napolitano.
How's your honor?
I knew I loved you. And now my love level for you just accelerated now that I know that you, what'd you say, Irish? Irish by trade, and now you are married into a Italian family.
Yes, Irish by birth, Italian by marriage.
I remember I had this college girlfriend of mine, and she took me over to her grandparents' house for a Sunday meal. And German, born and
Yep,
raised, so foreign to me. And I went there and I was like, these are my people.
yep.
We had so much wine. There was so much food, hands flaring all over the place. Does that ring any bells to you with your in-laws?
Yes, we have a great time at the house, and the family loves to get together. And when we can, we enjoy. And it's, I don't know, I tend to find myself surrounded around people who are like that in general. So my mom is Polish and German. However, I think there may have been a flair or two of Italian in her because she loved hosting the dinners and making the big meals and doing all of that. So it was not foreign to me when I entered into my husband's world of familia,
Yeah.
everyone around the table.
Oh my God. Isn't that where the best memories are really made?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And it's funny because when I reflect on it, I'm the youngest of three girls, and I would be the one poking at the two, and then inevitably they'd get in trouble because they were kind of like, no, you shouldn't do that. And it's just comical when you reflect on your childhood, how birth order plays a role in how you show up in the work world. And I genuinely believe we show up in the work world as our best 4 and 5 year old selves. We are one of the Winnie the Pooh characters, whether you're Piglet, Pooh, Tigger, Eeyore, Kanga, like which one are you? Christopher Robin, like pick your character. I really feel like when you get down to the nitty gritty of leading people, managing people, helping people grow and develop, you just got to figure out which character they are and just kind of manage specifically to those specific traits.
That is such a great little nugget because don't you feel, at least I know with me, with my personal journey, I never took the time to unpack my childhood, but that's
Mhm.
where all of this shit stemmed from, this needing to achieve, this being addicted to it. And then
Yep.
also, too, from a leadership standpoint, when I led a team, and I never understood this, you get put into the leadership role because you're good at your job at what you do. But I found that no one ever really taught me the emotional component of leading a team. How did you deal with that?
Girl, I reflect on those amazing leaders that I have and have had in my past. And I've been very fortunate in the company that I work for to have been surrounded by not only very intelligent people, but people with heart and
Mm.
people who would just put themselves like they never saw themselves as I'm leading the team. Yes, they are leaders, but they were walking alongside of us. And so I had a lot of positive role models. And let's face it, outside of Hilton, I worked for another company, and I learned a lot of, wow, that's an interesting approach. So you take all of these learning moments and you apply them to how you show up, right? We will always want to be the best version of ourselves. But to your point, Megan, it's I think for leaders who are servant driven, navigant leader styles, especially this past 2.5, 3 years with COVID, I it's taken a heavy toll on
Mm.
leaders who genuinely care. And I'm not saying there are leaders that don't care, but you can tell the leaders that are sincere about, hey, tell me about your son. I know when we last talked, he was dealing with, you were getting him tested for ADHD, whatever the conversation is, right?
Right.
Really leaning into that because that is far more important to that team member in the back of their mind. And you're not going to get the best of that team member until they are able to kind of go through, this is what is the heaviest thing weighing on my brain right now. So let me bring it up because I genuinely care about you as a human to human. And then, okay. And then if there's some wisdom of nuggets, or if we have resources with my company that I might be able to redirect the team member to, it's like, I don't want to say be all encompassing, but to me, it's more than work. It's a
Yeah.
passion. And so when I'm connected with my team member, almost heart to heart of sorts, I just feel like the team has elevated themselves individually and collectively.
Oh, I love that you get that. God, Kim, where were you in my early days of leadership? Girl, I'll tell you what, like, and here's the thing that I was never taught. These sorts of conversations on the heart, I was always taught to get the task done, as I think we all are. So I only so many hours in a day. I look back at my leadership style. I was a tyrant. Can like, and that wasn't my MO, but I felt like had so much to do and only so much time that if I had someone for 30 minutes, I was like, here's the task, here's what needs to get done. Thank you, goodbye. And for
Mhm.
those leaders that are listening that are like, God, yeah, I want to show them for my team differently, but I'm exhausted. How do I show them for my team better? I don't even know where to start. What would be one micro step that you could give them?
Mm. Well, first and foremost, Megan, I don't want you to sit in a place of judgment of how you perceive you showed up,
Mm,
because your perception is your reality, but your team members' perceptions are their realities. So I would say just kind of be in a place of stillness, how we are showing up a little bit more, with stronger, softer skills.
mm,
That, I mean, that's fairly recent. That's new. So, like, don't beat yourself up. You were just showing up the way that we were presented. This is how you need to show up in a cultural standpoint in our work world.
right.
So I would just ask everyone that's kind of sitting in that space, wow, okay, just acknowledge it. Just close your eyes. Just let it sit in your heart. Like, how does that make you feel? What are you experiencing when you close your eyes? Do you feel things? Do you see colors? Like, what is going on? And then I just want you to kind of just move it. Like, imagine it just going out the soles of your feet and going into the heart of Mother Earth. Allow her to receive all of that, because then you can start to say, okay, how do I want to show up? What is the best version of myself? And so one micro step could be as simple as starting to journal. And
Mm,
if you find yourself, you just say, what can I do differently? And just be quiet, and just they call it automatic writing, and just start writing whatever comes to your mind. So Megan, you could say, how do I show up differently? And be like, pay the bills, do the laundry,
yeah.
write it all, because all of a sudden something will start now channeling through of sorts, and it'll be like, you know what, you can make sure you have everyone's birthday on your calendar, or on your next one-on-one call. Before you talk business, ask, how are you doing? Or if you're friends with, or make sure you're connected with them on LinkedIn and Facebook or other social media feeds, and make sure you're seeing what's going on in their life to let them know you're connected. Uh, Megan, it can be as simple as how was your weekend? Pause, pause. Or what's the biggest thing you're dealing with this week, personal or professional? And pause, right? Two eyes, two ears, one mouth, right? See more, hear more, speak less.
I love how simple you made that because we think it has to be so complicated. And I don't know if it's always been like this in corporate America, but it's sort of like, oh, feelings, nope, not dealing with it. That's woo woo. We're here
Yep.
to talk
We
business.
love the woo woo.
We love, well, girl, don't we? But there's so much science to back it.
Yep.
I like to say it's where woo woo meets the work. Like there's so much science to back it. You told me on our catch 'em call a couple weeks ago, you're like, Meg, and I want you to share that story with our audience. You
Yeah.
were at a conference and you had given, I think it was like a quick little
Oh, yeah.
meditative session. Can you share the conversation with our audience?
Yeah, so I have an amazing team. I absolutely love them. They know I've been on this journey of self-healing and improvement, and I do these meditations, for like a better way to call them. And they said, oh, hey, our customer is bringing in about 30 plus people. It's the first time they've gotten together as a team, and they want to do some sort of a wellness activation. Well, we love wellness activations, all about that, because we know that when people are in that space of centeredness, they are so much more productive. They are in such better spirit. And then again, elevating the conversation, walking out like, hey, this was a really great use of time and energy. And so yes, yes, and yes. Ask me, I'm there. I'm happy to lead a meditation. So going through the process, brought them in, reworking, actually resetting their fight or flight. We were in Las Vegas, and it's high energy. First of all, people getting delayed, the stress of travel. It could have been very well the first time many of them had been traveling. So you get that kind of anxiety going on. And then meeting people for the first time in person. And then what's the meeting about? All right, there's all these nuances that everyone seems happy, but it's like you could almost tell it was a little bit of a nervous excitement. So brought him in, did the whole thing. And long story short, it was funny because we transitioned out because, at that point I'd gotten them really calm and relaxed. I was like, okay, now you all are going to have some fun. And what a great position to be to talk about legal terms and conditions. And so it was a great segue to talk about a very complex topic. I had no idea what the next topic was going to be until I literally got in the room. But I feel like I'm guessing the conversation was embraced in a different way. But what was so powerful to me, Megan, was when someone came up to me later in the day and pulled me aside and was just blown away. They're like, wow, it was amazing. And the heart with which you led just allowed us all to reset and to really have a more productive, meaningful conversation. And, my journey stems from 300 hours of coursework during COVID. And that is the silver lining for me through COVID, is the fact that I did have the time to dedicate to leaning in to something I found of great interest. And I listened to myself and I said, you know what? No, this is something I'm really interested in. Let me do this. Let me see what this is all about. And it's just kind of gone from here.
You said so many words in there that I had to write down because it made my mind go in so many directions. And I love how you said, I led with heart and I leaned in and listened to myself. And I think those are two things that as we sprint through the Herculean sprint of our days to do the things, be the things, take the calls, get the things done, we never gift ourselves any silence, as you talked about, to really know what we want. Have you always leaned into your intuition? Have you always had that gift? And if not, how do you feel like you gave yourself the space to listen?
Girl, it has been a journey. It has been a journey. I would love to say, I showed up like this, right? This is how I show up. And maybe from the external side, I showed up this way, but it wasn't until recent. It's probably been like a 5-year journey that I've been leaning into saying yes to me. And this past year, my mantra was embrace, and not only embrace, relish being in the uncomfortable space. Because when you're in that uncomfortable space, that means you are growing. And that to me is such a beautiful gift, because imagine if everything's just status quo, everything's vanilla, nothing wrong with vanilla, but sometimes you do like to add some flavor to the mix, right? So if you're just doing status quo, how are you evolving as a human being? Not only just showing up at work, but showing up for your family. Like, what are you doing to help elevate yourself? Because when you elevate yourself, you're elevating everyone around you. And then some. There have been studies done on, like, from an energetic standpoint, that when you raise your vibration, you're literally raising 75,000 other human beings. That's pretty powerful.
Wow.
And we're 99.98% energy, and the body is 0.02% matter.
As you say that, my mind just flashes too. And I never really understood the energy behind it until you just said these words. So as I started to heal myself, as I started to get to know myself, Kim, and dig back through the muck and the mire of all this shit that I ran from because I was a runner my entire life, uncomfortable. No, don't want it. Let me run into the email. Let me run into the booze. Let me run into the food. Let me run into the men, whatever it was to fill the void. But as I started to heal myself and get to know myself, did I find that all of this healing was happening in my family? Like, my family's in a great place than they've ever been. My dad is back into my life out of being out of my life for almost my entire 40 years. My brother's in a good place. My mom's in a good, like, we're all in a good place. And I never even thought to tie it back into the energy that I'm exuding. Have you seen that in your personal life as well? Personal and professional, really?
Yes, yes, and yes. It's been a beautiful gift to be able to experience and to have conversations with people that may have been a little bit more kind of I don't know, maybe not flow as well as it could. Those have shifted significantly. And it's just brought such peace to me because I've done a lot of inner child work.
Mm.
And Megan, if you were to say what's one thing people can do, just close your eyes, put your hands on your heart, and just listen, because your inner child wants to be heard. And some of your actions or reactions are a direct correlation to the relationship you have with your inner child. And that may seem like a little bit for some people who are listening to the podcast. And for that, it's because it's resonating. And I would just say, have the moment, journal. How are you doing today? And just start writing everything that's coming out. Because when you're in that place of centeredness, then you're able to move forward in a way that is allowing you to up level conversations. And it's weird, doors and windows open, areas of opportunity, they just start popping open. And so if you start saying no to opportunities, then things will kind of reshift. So I look at life in a way, it's not what the universe is doing to us, but it's what the universe is doing for us.
Oh, I just have almost had a church praise be moment. I almost jumped out of my seat. Preach to me,
Praise.
Kim. Preach to me. Yes. Yes, and as you're sharing this, I have found, well, I'm so happy. Two things. One, I am so happy that you are talking about the power of pen to paper.
Mm,
I listen, I've always said someone else can't write the playbook to what works for your life.
yeah.
But for me, therapy, like I'm very stubborn. I hate to be forced to talk about stuff when I'm not ready to talk about it. So
Yep.
therapy never worked for me. But what did was writing. A
Hmm.
couple moments in the morning before the rest of the world got a hold of me. I love how you just talked about like the free writing. There was no agenda to it. It was just freeing the thoughts in here. And that's how I slowly began to peel back these layers of everything I ran from. Is that how you began your journey too, through pen and paper? Or share with us how you started this.
Well, so Megan, I'm sure you have a girl in your life, a girlfriend that's always like trying new things and trying, hey, Megan, let's do this, let's do this. Well, my dear friend is Elaine. And it started off with transcendental meditation. And I will be forever grateful to Elaine because of how she's gotten me out of my shell. To be like, let's try this, let's try that. And the answer has always been yes. What time do I meet you at? And what's the cost? And for some reason, like normally I'd be like overthinking it and processing it. But for her, she was like a portal to me. And so we started with transcendental meditation, which all was about going within, going within. And then it led to her connecting me to an incredible life coach. And my life coach has been phenomenal. If you ever want a recommendation, I highly recommend Jane. She's amazing. And she's the one that has been helping me on the professional coaching side as well as personal and spiritual path. And she started working with me on like at the end of our call, she'd be like, let me try a meditation. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So, and I was like, wow. And so I was like, what is this? I need to learn more about it. And so she's the one that told me about the program that I then took in January of 2021 and finished in July of 21. And what I absolutely love about this journey is that, again, during the peak of COVID, I would be talking to team members on Teams.
Mm.
And so you could see, right, Megan, you're not with them physically, like where you just want to hold on to them and love them. And
Yeah.
it's okay, we'll get through this together, whatever the situation was. But, I could see it. You could just see the light missing from their eyes and
Mm.
the joy. And so for those conversations that I would have with team members, they knew I was on this journey. And I said, well, would you be open to a meditation, like 10 minutes out of a 45-minute call? And they'd be like, okay. And I'll never forget when I did this for just for some of my team members that participated in this, how relaxed they were afterward.
Mm.
And Megan, as a leader, how much more productive they were. And I'm not saying that this is about production, but they found such joy, like the shift of their perspective,
Mm.
right? To be able to move forward, to be able to catch their breath. Ultimately, how can I help people learn to exhale to pause and then take another breath in to be able to move forward. And
Mm.
so it's just such joy to be able to help them reset themselves and then say, okay, this is one foot in front of the other. Now, whether we were talking business or personal, it was okay, let me take one foot in front of the other, because I never want any team member to feel like they've got to stand still or they've got to go back. The question is, oh, no, 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 we're walking alongside each other. So I'm not going to pull or push you, but I'm here to help you move forward. So what is the hurdle in your way that we can figure out how you can solution, not me, how you can solution to take the next step forward?
As you're talking, it just makes me think about this community and these relationships that you build around you.
Yeah.
Study after study, back to the it's just not woo, has shown us that the happiest people in the world, it's not about the jean size you wear, it's not about the car, it's not about the Botox. It's not about, what you got in the bank account. What it's about is your relationships
Hmm.
and how quickly we forget that through the sprint of our day. So I love that as you're talking, and I can see your passion come through. You're talking about your team and the relationships and the community around you. That's the foundation. Connections, the birthplace of everything, and we forget that.
Yeah, it's been a great journey, and so much so that I asked my leader, "Hey, would you be opposed if for your division, she's got a pretty sizable division, can we do a Wellness Wednesday?" And so it's bringing other like-minded people that, have some sort of talent, whether it's yoga, meditation, even if it's doing a 10-minute Peloton arm app workout, right? But doing some sort of mindfulness wellness approach for every Wednesday. And she was super supportive of it. We leaned into the opportunity and we do this every Wednesday now. And so whether we have one person show up, then that, you know what, that was the person who needed it. Or we have 50. Those are the people who needed it at that moment in time, but it's giving them a free resource to come together. And I've told, we call ourselves the wellness practitioners. We have a lot of fun with it. And I've told people, like, oh, I think I want to do it. I'm like, just do it. Even if you don't know what to do, read a poem. Like, think about the beauty of poetry. How often are we reading poetry? Like, read us a 10-minute poem. How great would that be? Again, get the brain thinking differently, changing our perspective when we come from where we showed up in the call to when we leave the call.
Have you seen such a difference in the way the team communicates and shows up and how you show up through
That's
having just these human conversations?
Yep. Well,
Uh,
and so Megan, I feel like it's the fact that I don't want to say it's the first time, but it's a time where they feel genuinely seen, heard, and valued.
mm, mm,
Right?
mm.
How many conversations? And listen, I am by far not perfect. Okay, so I this has been me stumbling along the road, in the journey of the road of what we're traveling to get to a better version of ourselves and to be our authentic selves. And it's, so what I believe to be true, standing up for what I believe to be true. That I just read that from Adam Grant. I love that quote. It's much nicer how he wrote it, but that's the gist of it. And to be able to lean into those conversations with people, to really want to understand who they are and why they're showing up the way they are, versus in the past I'd be like multitasking. I was horrible at multitasking. I had team members tell me, I can hear you typing, and I'd be mortified. I'm like, I can't be everything to everyone. No, sister, you can't. It's proven fact. You cannot multitask, right? Could you imagine if the people, the jet fighters were multitasking while they're flying these $20 million jets in the air? Like,
Yeah.
that can't be done.
Yeah. Yeah. As you're telling this, it just makes me flash to my poor husband because why is it that the people that are the closest to us is the people that get the scraps of us sometimes? Like, why is
Oh,
that?
I know. Yeah.
My poor husband will call me, and if I'm not on calls and I pick up the phone and we talk, I'm sending the email or I'm checking on my phone as I'm talking to him. And I'm like, one, how rude is that? But two, how many times I do that with so many people because I think that I can multitask and I can't. That's
Yeah.
such a powerful nugget.
Well, and I remember, again, I'm so busy being busy. Like I joke about that. Like we're all so busy being busy, but are we productive? No. And oh, I've got 1,000 emails in my email box. How many do you have? Like, like that justifies our value. And I think that's where like our society and like the culture has kind of gone way too far, either to one direction or the other. Like it's okay to just, it's okay to love yourself. It's okay to be still in yourself because you're going to be far more productive than the person that's everywhere and trying to be something to everyone, which it's, you can only be so much to so many people.
I
And to
love
your point, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go no, go, go, go.
Well, I was just going to say to your point about your husband, girl, like, yes, same for me and my husband and my kids, and love you all, love you, because literally they are the strength.
Yes. Yes. And I should have known that Mike, well, I look back and I think, oh my God, I knew right from the get-go he was the man for me. But what I love so much about it is he does not try to change me.
Yes. So
He
I'm, oh,
Go
go ahead.
ahead. I
I was
was
going to
just
say,
I was just saying, like, I tried to be with other men who wanted me to be things I was not and that I thought I needed to be. So the
mhm,
cook, the cleaner, like things that I saw my mom be, I thought I needed to be, but that just
mhm,
wasn't me. And
mhm,
when I tried to fit into that mold, it felt agitated and angry because that just wasn't who I was. But being able to connect with Michael, and he just allowed me to be me and not need to be in the kitchen and cook and clean and do the business and take these calls and do the things that light me up while not feeling guilty about it.
that is beautiful.
Would you
That is
say the same
beautiful.
about your relationship?
Oh, yeah, girl, yes. And it's funny. So my husband's name is Michael as well. So maybe there's something special about the Michaels, other Mikes
Yep.
in the world. But all joking aside, I was on a panel at the beginning of this year for women in leadership and sales. And they said, oh, go ahead and introduce yourself. And I was like, okay, I said, share one interesting fact. I said, oh, I'm married to my college sweetheart. And they're like, oh, and I said, well, ladies, let me add to this. What makes my sweetheart so amazing is that he saw my brilliance before I even saw a flicker or a glimmer of the brilliance. Like he allowed me to be me. He loved on me in a way that allowed me literally to blossom. And
Mm.
so I love what you're saying about your husband, because it takes a very strong man to support a strong woman.
Oh,
And these men are heroes in my book.
and as I have goosebumps because as you're talking about your Michael giving you the courage to see yourself,
Yeah.
that is the same thing that happened with my Michael. It was almost kind of like I felt as if I had to fight the entire world because my whole life was fighting and
Hmm.
everyone told me I wouldn't amount to much. So I was like, oh yeah, watch me. And I would show up harder and stronger. And I just had all of this shield around me. And I didn't even realize it. And then when Michael came in and showed me this unconditional love that was not contingent on anything, did it give me the courage to put this shield down and truly show up as the woman I was always meant to be, but didn't know how. Did you find that the same thing with your Michael?
Yeah, yes, I definitely did. It was may have been a little bit of a slower process, but
Yeah.
to be able to be held within a bubble of acceptance when I struggled to accept myself. I mean, we've all said this at least probably sometime in our life, where no matter what you say, it can't be as hard and as cruel as I've said to myself. And so he has been incredibly supportive as I've gone on this journey to really dig in to say, it's time for me to love me. It's time for me to accept me. Because when I can do that, I can demonstrate that to others. And
Mm.
that's the type of leader I want to be, is to lift people up so they can, I want them to be able to achieve things they never even thought were possible
Mm.
to achieve.
You might want to go back to what you were talking about with this busy badge of honor, because that was another church service moment. I about kicked my seat back because I can't tell you how many calls I've had with people that I'm like, oh, I haven't even eaten today. I had to run to the bathroom. Like it's like, oh, look at me, I'm so busy, and it's so hard to detox off this in a society that
Yeah.
keeps it going and going and going. So As someone who is on the road quite a bit, leading a
Mhm,
team, a very, I don't want to say demanding, but a very busy job, a
mhm.
mother, a wife, like what practices do you have so you don't lose yourself
Mm,
in doing all these things, being all these things, getting all these things done?
yeah, it's well, a couple of things. So one of my former team members, she started a similar path and found this book by Hal Elrod, and it was The Miracle Morning. And so I have really embraced savers, which is silent for meditation, affirmations, um, oh my goodness, visualization, exercise, and reading.
Mm,
And even if you just do 1 minute per item, that's still doing a lot more than most people will do in the course of their day. So that's one thing I do. I try to wake up an hour earlier than I normally would and do some sort of reading, meditation, like whatever that looks like. Some days are really, really good for me, and other days I'm like, oh, snooze, I just want to roll over and go back to bed. So again, it's a journey. No one's perfect. And when anyone says, oh, I do this religiously, and well, good for them. Like, yay, they figured it out. Like, I'm a human being and I struggle just like everyone else does. Um, and then I would also say you need a board of directors of you.
mm,
And I have a group of women in my life who I know I could call at 3 a.m. and they would be here on the doorstep if it's not flying in from Texas or driving up from Richmond or coming in from McLean or wherever they're coming from or in from Denver, right? Like wherever they're coming from. Like they would be there instantaneously. And these are beautiful human beings that will pull me aside and say, girl, you got some broccoli in your teeth. Here's the floss, bathroom two doors down on the left. People, those are the type of people that the people I just described, that is who you want in your inner sanctum of who you are and how you show up. Because we can all have the friends, oh, you look fabulous, and you walk away. Well, okay, we know that
yeah.
happens. Like, let's not act like it doesn't. It does. But I truly want friends that, again, they have my best interest at heart, and I do as them. Where we can have those very uncomfortable conversations. And Megan, when you said this way, like it really kind of crushed me. And I just want to know, what did you mean when you said that? Because I got so lost in the emotion, I wasn't hearing what you were saying. Like that's the type of friend you want. So I'd rather have four of those good friends, and I have a ton of acquaintances, and I've got some incredible team members that are also I consider friends as well in that mix. But I'd rather have four that literally show up every time I need them than having 1,000 who like just have me on an Instagram feed or a Facebook feed.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you're talking about this. And Kim, it makes me flash too. I was just reading this study that said, I think it was like 50% of Americans struggle with this loneliness and feeling so alone, even though they might be in a sea of people.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, and God, I know I've been there. Like I thought it was so easier to hide in my cocoon, even though I had people around me, but I didn't want to appear that I didn't have it all together. So I hid in the silence of the corners of my room, sobbing until I felt like I could get myself together to see people again. And for those listeners who are struggling with this loneliness and this feeling like they're struggling alone in an island by themselves, what is one thing that they could do to feel that connection to the community around them?
Mm. First, recognize you are not the only one feeling this way.
Mm,
You don't get to be the lucky lone soldier. We're all feeling some sort of disconnection in some way, shape, or form. So I think if you're able to acknowledge that and just be still with that, and Megan, so much, it's just about your relationship with yourself.
mm,
You feel disconnected because you're actually disconnected with yourself.
mm.
So how can you foster a relationship with your inner child? And and then you got to put yourself out there. So if you love riding bikes and that's a passion of yours, then join a bike club. If you love to knit, find a knitting club. If you like to play bridge, find a bridge club. Like you've got to put yourself out there. And yeah, how old are your kids, Megan?
So I have two stepchildren. They are 25 and 23.
Okay, are they all about gaming? Because I've got a 25, a soon to be 22-year-old, and a soon to be 21-year-old, and the boys are all gaming. And I'm like,
Yeah.
go out, meet face to face, like meet people in person. But they're like, but mom, this is my community. Like these are my people. They'll connect once in a while in person, but it's fascinating to me how generationally things have shifted differently. Like we're so connected, but yet we are still so apart.
Yes. Yes. And that makes me flash too. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine the other morning, and she just said, having this conversation with you in the morning as we were talking in the car, she was like, I forgot how soul quenching this is.
Mm,
And as you talked about, like just getting out from behind the screen, it's so easy to sit there and how often you see the invite to the networking event or the personal shower or whatever it is. And you think, God, I'd love to go, but I'm too busy. And as you're talking about that, it just made me think of the power of saying of making a commitment to go and
mhm.
connect with the people in person.
Yeah. When you say yes to there's things that you may have to say no to, but sometimes when you're saying no, you're saying yes to yourself. So I would encourage you to say yes to these opportunities. And and then now this is a salesperson to me and the leader in me as well. When you walk in the room, don't go to the five people you already know.
Yeah.
Like just embrace being uncomfortable and walk up to the person that you have no clue who they are. What they do does not matter. You're just, hi, human to human. Hi, I'm Kim. I work for Hilton. It's nice to meet you. What brought you to this networking event?
Yes. Yes. And the people that you meet.
I'm telling you, because if they don't know anyone, they're kind of standing by themselves too. You are going to have a friend fast, and all of a sudden you're building your network. And so I would say whether it's for a professional activity or a personal engagement, just push yourself out there and talk to the ones that you probably are least likely to, and spread a little bit more love and joy.
Oh, God, I love that. Kim, as you were talking earlier, I love how throughout this entire conversation, you've weaved in this. Listen, I'm not perfect. I'm human. I slip up. Not every day am I spending an hour doing these things that I would love to, but time sometimes gets in the way. And I think what happens is we hear these things from these air quote, masters that have accomplished these things. And we think that we need to dedicate X number of hours and that it needs to be this full on commitment every day. And if we don't, then we failed and we suck and then we revert back to old habits. What do you think it is that has kept you continuously showing up on this journey? Because how long has it been for you?
Well, about 5 or 6 years, like on this particular journey. Um, Oh, Megan, that's hard. I wish I had a super easy answer other than to say, I just continue to see results and I
Mm,
like how I feel. And I feel different in the way of just standing more in my truth. Like I'm sure you can relate to this, right? Like it's especially as overachievers, right? We're overachievers for a reason. There's a sense of lack of worth,
yes.
and to like start shifting this narrative of no, I matter, I'm worthy, and I am enough to stand in my greatness. And if my greatness is too bright and brilliant for you, well then that's on you, boo. That's not on me. I'm not going to be with people who can only stand half of me. That's something Rachel Hollis said. I just because and to me when she said that, it was so profound, because if you can't take all of me, then you're not my tribe.
Yeah.
And whether that's in the workforce or it's in the personal side, like surround yourself with people who can accept all of you. And I will say through this process, girl, because it's been a journey, there's been shedding. There's been shedding of friends. So there is something to be said about there is a season for all relationships. They all serve a
Mm,
purpose. But as you continue to evolve and elevate, you may see friends and family who are like, what's going on? And I don't want to talk to her anymore. Let that be. It served its purpose. Let that be and move on. Because as you are growing, they equivalently from an the equivalent level of energy, they're not meeting yours. And you want to always be around people who are equal or greater energy level. to
Yeah.
help you continue to build up.
Oh, I love that. And people don't talk about that enough. I mean, it can be a lonely process. I remember when I transitioned into this role and 15-year corporate career wearing a certain hat, and it
Yeah.
was my identity. And I did not anticipate these pings of loneliness and feeling like, well, who am I if I'm not
Hmm.
that? But I had this inner gut whisper, and it was a whisper to tell me that, you're on the right path, and what is meant for you will always find you. I have it on
Hmm.
a I have it on today. My
Oh,
word is
beautiful.
trust.
Oh.
Trust myself. Trust that what is meant for me will always find me. Do you have a word or a saying or something that when you feel like, man, I can't fucking do this, or I these the I like to call it the asshole in your brain that just starts like chirping
Oh,
at
yeah.
you that you suck, you fail, this will never work.
The lizard brain. Yeah.
Yes. You said it much more beautifully than I put the Philly spin on it. Do you have something that you go back to that keeps you grounded, that makes you trust yourself, that turns down the lizard, the a-hole that's living up here in your brain, something that helps you to continue to push through?
There are a couple of things. It depends on what's going on in the day. But first, I'll just try to reconnect and say, I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. Other times, I'll say, I matter. I'm worthy. I am enough. And then other times, I'll just say, I'm spirit. I am one.
Mm,
Because when I can get to that place of recognizing we're all connected, we are all a part of this beautiful world. And it's interesting. The Western society, we were raised to believe that we left the Garden of Eden. And I challenge the fact that we need to rethink that. Indigenous cultures don't believe that. We're actually in the Garden of Eden. The question is, are we choosing to enjoy the nectar of life? Or are we choosing to not enjoy the nectar of life? Would we rather be the authors of our story, the creators of our story, the narrators of our story, or would we rather have someone narrate that story for us?
mm,
We can, fit in that triangle of disempowerment, right? It's victim, hero, perpetrator. Where do we fit in that? And or do you just say, you know what, I want to go in with a place of non-judgment. I just want to see what's going on and how can I show up as the best version of myself?
mm,
And that's the journey. So it all depends on what's happening where I'm at. But oftentimes you may just see with my hand on my heart, and I'm saying one of those things because
I
that
love that.
means I've lost sight. I've allowed the ego to take me out of my connection with God, Christ, Buddha, spirit, like however you refer to a higher power. But I know at that point in time, like Course in Miracles will say, I have removed myself from the connection of the higher source. So that's when I need to go back and reconnect in.
Mm, I love how you have added a simplicity to something that we can make so complicated. And I think that is just such a beautiful mic drop moment to anyone who is listening who feels like the a-hole, the lizard brain, the roommate that lives upstairs is paralyzing you with all of this fear, this guilt, this anxiety, to just place your hands on your heart and know that you are safe and give yourself a moment of pause. Kim, you are such a beautiful, beautiful human inside and outside. And I am beyond happy that Elaine helped navigate you through this journey because, my girl, you are touching so many lives. You are one of those people that people say your name and they go, oh, what a beautiful human. So thank you for the courage to find yourself, to bring it into an area that we need it so desperately in corporate America and leading with purpose. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so happy you were here with us today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Megan, for giving me the opportunity to share my story. It's been a pleasure being with you today. The feeling is mutual.
And Kim, if people want to stay connected with you and are salivating over you like I am, where can they find you? Where can we continue to get your nuggets of wisdom?
The best place right now is LinkedIn, and then I'm guessing I will be building out well, not guessing, but I know I'll be building out an Instagram page. The great news in all of this is that my daughter, who is social media savvy, will help me create the Instagram page. But yeah, so LinkedIn at Kimberly Napolitano.
Perfect. And guys, I'll link that in the show notes. And after we get your daughter going to work on your Instagram page, we'll make sure that we pull that out to the masses as well.
Love
Thank
it.
you, my beautiful friend. I love you to pieces.
Back at you. Thank you.